Hello and welcome to that 90s Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, James Sussel, and today's very special guest. He is a former WWE Tag Team Champion. He is the current World Wrestling Council Champion. You know him as Epico, but today we know him as Orlando Colon. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Still here, still stuck at home. The whole world is suffering from this pandemic, but hopefully the past is already behind us. So looking forward to the future, and let's get back to work.
Yeah, it's I've interviewed some men and women from like NWA and from Impact and such, and same sort of thing. It's affected the NWA men and women more than Impact, because Impact's got a steady TV show, whereas in NWA they was on YouTube. They've just started doing a program now with primetime, but it's affected so many wrestlers so much, especially independent workers. Like, I mean, I know there's a few independent shows starting to come about now, but it's just been a nightmare completely.
It is. It's crazy. I mean, we've done 2 shows, and we were a little bit hesitant taking those bookings because it's just not the right time. I mean, with this pandemic is no joke, and doing those shows, I mean, it was a great feeling being out there, and I am very appreciative to the fans that came out, risking their health and their lives. But it's just crazy times, and I still believe it's still not the right time to go out there and put on a show. But I mean, most of us have to pay our bills, so we're all in a tough predicament right now. But
you
just gotta stay positive and look forward to the future.
Hopefully it passes soon. That's all we can do. I suppose. Well, we'll get on to some lighter notes. So we'll go back to the beginning, I suppose. So your childhood. So I'd imagine automatically with Uncle Carlos, wrestling was your first love. So what was it like growing up in this legendary family?
It was crazy, man. Like for me, it's surreal that I'm doing what my uncle used to do back in the day. I have a 6-year-old, and he's getting into liking wrestling now, so I can see myself in him. And it's like taken back. It's like, wow. It's like, and being in Puerto Rico during that his heyday. I mean, there was no bigger superstar than my uncle Carlos Colon, and those battles with Abdullah the Butcher, Iron Sheik, Stan Hansen, Ric Flair. All those guys that went to Puerto Rico. I mean, to see him go to battle with all those guys, for me it was surreal.
Yeah, that was one of the things I wanted to talk about, the Puerto Rico fans. I know I know the Mexicans take it serious, and us UK fans, we still believe in kayfabe a little bit, but Puerto Ricans, they are on another level. I've listened to interviews with Roddy Piper talk about when him and Flair went over, and Flair said it was amazing we came back alive.
Yes, it's crazy, man. And that time in the 80s, if you were a bad guy, a heel, going to Puerto Rico was rough. I mean, I remember this arena in Caguas, Puerto Rico. The locker rooms, you would have to take like a flight of stairs down. So it was kind of like a tunnel, right?
Right.
And all the rest, baby faces and heels, came out of that one tunnel. And it was about 30 feet long tunnel down. And if you were a bad guy and it was a sellout, I mean, the point for a bad guy was not getting to the hotel or getting to the arena. It was going through that. They called it the tunnel of hell.
Wow.
Because you have the fans waiting for the bad guys to come out with rocks. and there's only one way to go in and out, and people would just go and throw those whatever they can get a hold of. And some guys were even busted open way before the bell rang. So, I mean, but then again, if people hated you at that level, that means you were drawing big money.
Yeah.
So for the baby faces, if you had a heel like that had that much heat and hatred from the people, everybody was getting paid. So the heels hated it, but overall, all the boys, we're making a lot of money. This guy's hot.
I think Piper always said he always said that whenever you look at wrestling, it was always the heels who drew the money, and that's why he refused to take a pin from Hogan. He said, "I'm the guy who gets the fans attendance." So I would imagine when they're heading over Puerto Rico, like you said, you was rubbing your hands together like Uncle Carlos and such.
Yes, and that's true. I mean, and kudos to Roddy Piper for saying it, because that's the reality of this business. People pay, in my opinion, not to see the good guy win. People pay, especially in Puerto Rico, to get the heel get his ass kicked. You
Yeah,
know, and always in Puerto Rico, you see the on the TV shows all the bad guys beating on the good guy. You know,
yeah,
and the one night where the good guy won, the bad guy always got their heat back. You know, so
right.
people were happy because the good guy won. But then again, they, especially with my uncle, he beat Abdullah the Butcher, but then again, he got destroyed by the rest of the heel locker room, to keep the story going.
Yeah.
And that was, it worked for 30 to 40 years, and it's still going on today.
Did I'd imagine then that you, Primo, and Carlito, you was always round the matches growing up as kids. What did it feel like for you being round it, I suppose, as kids?
Oh, it was awesome. I mean, we used to play. I mean, we used to wrestle. We used to play wrestling, and when they stayed at my house, or I stayed at their house, and we used to put on these little shows just for ourselves. But we used to charge my sister and my cousin 25 cents to come see us wrestle in our room. And they never wanted to do it, but we just made them. We made them come watch us, and then we made them pay us. And then whenever I would go back home, I would ask Primo, "Hey, Primo, you got a pair of boots for my uncle? I just want to, or his robe or his singlet." And he would he would go into my uncle's closet, pick a set of gear, pick set of trunks, and I would take it home and just wear it. I was like, "Oh my God, this is crazy."
Cool. So, and I know, I think I've watched some interviews you've done before, and then I think you moved over to America when you was about 7 or 8. I think I've got that right. And I think one of the things you wanted to do to begin with was baseball. Is that right?
Yeah, that was my first passion. Started playing baseball when I was 8 or 9 years old, and I was doing fairly well. Good enough that I got a scholarship to play baseball in Western Michigan University. But then injuries happened. I had a hernia surgery, and then I tore my shoulder, so I needed a surgery for that. So once those injuries happened, I said, you know what? Let me hang up the baseball gloves and the baseball bat, and let me pick up a pair of boots.
I think it's a similar story to Macho Man Randy Savage, because I think he was known for being like brilliant baseball player, and similar sort of situation. Like I think he suffered from injuries and decided to go into the family business like yourself, and never looked back, I suppose. And and it was weird because I was looking, and you didn't train with. Well, from what I've read, you didn't train with Uncle Carlos to begin with. It was actually Dan the B7. What was he like?
Yeah, he was a good guy. I didn't actually train with him for a long period of time. I just did a weekend camp. He had a Friday, Saturday, Sunday camp, and the first night they were showing us some rolls and some bumps, and I guess he liked the way I was bumping or whatever. He goes, "Hey kid, you got for the first time that you have ever stepped into a ring, you got something." I'm good friends with JR and yada yada yada. So he gave me the pep talk to keep me inspired on pursuing my dream. And it happens with everybody, and it doesn't have to be in the wrestling industry. It could be in anything, music industry, acting. It only takes one person to kind of light a fire under your butt to keep you going. And for me, at that moment, I was let me just get my feet wet to see if I have it. If I have it, and if I don't, I have my college degree that I can go back and go that route. But that camp for me was what got me going. I said, okay, I can do this. And that's when Primo called me. He goes, my dad is pretty mad at you that you started training behind his back. And I was like, yeah, and the thing was for me, I couldn't take another day, because I still had another semester in college, and I did not want to wait another 6 months of doing nothing. I had to do something. Baseball was done for me, so I was like, let me just get started in the wrestling business. Puerto Rico was always there, and I'm going back to Puerto Rico once I get my college degree. But what am I going to do for the next 4 months? Let me just
Yeah.
get going, And that was basically my way of thinking back in the day in regards to breaking into the business.
Cool. And you moved back, and your name Fireblaze, was it Cal? Fireblaze is like a Pokemon or something. Was it? I'm sure. Was it Carlito who came up with
that
it?
was
Is that right?
Carlito, yeah. We were in Thanksgiving. I was in Puerto Rico for Thanksgiving break, and Carlito was in WWE, and we're just having a couple beers. And my uncle was just making jokes here and there about, just giving me a hard time about, hey, you should have, done this, should have came with me, this and that to get started. But now that you're in the business, what are you going to name yourself? And I had no idea. I don't know. I just wanted to wrestle. And Carlito just takes a step over his finger. Let's call him Fireblaze. And we all started laughing. And my uncle goes, oh, I like it.
That's great.
Yeah.
And like you just mentioned, like Carlito was in WWE at the time, and he debuted with a pretty strong push, like defeating Cena on his first night, US champion, and during it was mainly Carlito's time, like early to mid 2000s, when I've always been a wrestling fan, but I really got into it like mid 2000s. And when Carlito came along, like my kid brother loved Carlito. He keeps saying, I started the show, my podcast started like 2 months ago, and he's got a list of 4 people he wants on the show. I went, who do you want me to get? He said, when you get Shawn Michaels, Batista, Cody Rhodes, and Carlito.
That's
I'm
awesome.
Like, I'll try my best. But I would imagine like you and Primo, like watching Carlito, like instant success in WWE. How much of an inspiration was he like to use to get over there eventually?
Well, yeah, that's I never saw myself in WWE when I started when I broke into business. I knew my goal was to be a mainstay in Puerto Rico. Knowing what the business was in the 80s, like I always, it's been my dream to get the business back to where it was. But when I started seeing Carlito, and then to see the success that he had in a short period of time, I was like, wow, wait a minute, I'm gonna have to reconsider. And then the money issue was the amount of money that he was making at the time, and all the boys, and he was just the one that that broke the door open, and thanks to him, a number of Puerto Rican wrestlers have been able to join WWE. Primo, myself, Eric Escobar, Sweet Pappy Sanchez, and the list goes on.
Yeah, and he was so entertaining. Some of the skits he done, and just he was gold. And I mean, we'll probably get back to it later on, because I know there was sort of a time where it was possibly he was going to come back with views, but we'll get to that later on. But obviously, before you hit WWE, you spent a little bit of time in 01. Japan. What was it like working in Japan?
Oh, that was awesome. That was thank you to Steve Carino, who got me the opportunity. I had my second shoulder surgery, and I was 2 months from coming back, and I was talking to my uncle. I was like, hey, is there a possibility that you would let me go to Japan before I make my comeback in Puerto Rico? Because he had everything lined up to give me a push as a heel in Puerto Rico. So I just wanted to do something in Japan before I did that angle in Puerto Rico. So he gave me the blessing, and Carino gave me the opportunity to work in 01. And we had a really, really good deal lined up with them. They were going to book talent from our company every month. And they started I went in March, and I think a month or two before me, another wrestler, Charles Evans, Hammer, they flew him in, and they put the tag belts on him and Carino. And something happened with Charles Evans, where he demanded more stuff. And Japanese culture, when you do a handshake deal, they'll stick to you to the end, but don't mess it up. And I guess he messed it up, and they decided to cancel the rest of the deal. Lucky for me, they already had purchased all my travel.
Right.
So the plan was for me to keep going once every month, but they just cut it short because of that I guess, and I don't know the details of what happened, but it was something that happened before I was there. But the experience was unbelievable. They flew me in. I was there for a week. Got to work with Otani, Hidaka, and some of the other Japanese wrestling legends, and it was the time of my life.
Cool. And not long after, you finally made it to WWE and FCW, and I was looking on the network, and I know they've done the documentary in FCW, but there isn't many FCW matches on there, but managed to like find some on YouTube and things like that. But one of the things I noticed, you was in the original Ascension before.
Yes.
I suppose they went all gothic. They kind of started off Latino, but it was like yourself, Ricardo Rodriguez, Shao Guerrero, big Tom Latimer. I'm a big fan of. And also, name ringing me on now. I've just lost it. What's his name now?
Connor.
Connor. That's it. Yeah, that's right. Yes, and later on, like him and Tom Latimer had done the Ascension before Tom Latimer basically got fired, and they brought in Victor. But what was it like working the original Ascension gimmick? And like, why did they decide? Well, I know you got called up not long after, but what was it like working FCW?
It was great. I was just there polishing my skills and developing my character. I did the other gimmicks with Sin Cara, the Aviadors, where we wore a mask, and I was just like trying to find myself in regards to a character. And the opportunity came, and Ricardo came down, and he says they want to do something new with me, but I don't know what. Is it okay if I use you to do like and it was some kind of promo where he was like a sports agent kind of thing.
That's right, yeah.
And it came across, he wanted to do something like similar to the show, I think Entourage from HBO. So it was
That's right, yeah.
And when Dusty saw the promo, he said, Ricardo wanted to go with one direction, and Dusty, he saw, instead of Entourage, Dusty saw True Blood.
Yeah.
And that sparked everybody. Oh, cool. So we're going to be vampires. So and then everybody pitched different ideas. I mean, and then we started the following week. We just did different promos, and then everything just it clicked great, and we were all invested big time in that the Ascension gimmick. And we did some interviews to send to all the writers and the producers on Raw and SmackDown. And according to the office in FCW, it was a very, very good chance that the Ascension as a stable was going to be called up pretty soon. And all of a sudden, Bill DeMott, who was a trainer at the time in FCW, he pulls us to the side on a Wednesday. I remember we were doing promos. He goes, "Hey guys, they love the Ascension. They have plans for the Ascension, but how would you guys feel if they decided to call one of you guys up for the main road?" And we were like, "Oh gosh, that'll be great. I mean, this is great, the Ascension, but our main goal is to make it to the main roster. However we get there, we just want to get there." And he goes, "That's the answer I wanted. Oh, and by the way, Orlando, you're the one that's getting called up." I'm like, "What? This is the only gimmick I got. What are they gonna do with me?" Sure enough, the next week I was doing some live events. Then I did some dark matches. Then we debuted against Sin Cara. Then they put Sin Cara, me, and Primo in a stable in Liverpool.
Yeah.
And the next week, we got called into the office. They told us that they were going to split us up because it was too violent for their PG product. So, okay. I mean, that would have been an easy fix. Just change our look. But they have their own way of doing business, so we just, whatever you want to do with us, we're here. We're here to work, So.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you got caught up. But yeah, Sin Cara is a weird one because he was someone who came in with a lot of hype. So I'll be honest, Orlando, like over here in the UK, we don't get much Lucha Libre on TV. You do have to search for it like online to find it. But like I have heard like he's Lucha Libre name Mystico, And
Yes.
apparently he was Triple H's first big signing when Triple H started moving more into the office. And there was a lot of buzz when he came in, and they gave him the special lighting and things like that, but it didn't work out. Why do you think that? Like, why do you reckon it didn't work out? And
I think he
ultimately,
just
he ended up getting released, and they put the mask on Hunico.
For me, it was just he's a great guy and a great talent, unbelievable talent. The thing
Yeah,
was he was never able to adapt to the American style
yeah,
of wrestling, the
yeah,
psychology. When you look at Mexican lucha libre, it's totally different than European wrestling and Japanese wrestling and American style wrestling. And he was such a huge star in Mexico
yeah,
that all throughout his career he never had to change his style. Why?
yeah,
That's giving him a really good living. So WWE gives him a call, and he figured that, and I'm sure they told him that just be you. So
yeah,
someone tells you be you, so I don't have to change my style. Why would I? They want me to be me, so everybody else has to adapt to my style. Well, not everybody works lucha libre style, and I think Primo was the one who worked Sin Cara's debut because nobody else could
yeah.
wrestle
That's right.
his style. And it was a very because for Sin Cara to look good, you need a very good and strong base.
Yeah,
So he only had a handful of opponents that he can work with. One of them was Sunico, Primo, myself, Tyson Kidd,
yeah, yeah.
and maybe
Chavo.
Ricardo Rodriguez, Chavo, and Del Rio.
Yeah,
I
yeah. That's
believe,
right.
off the top of my head.
Yeah,
Um, but Del Rio was on top. He was a champion at the time, so there was no way that they were going to put him, And Rey Mysterio, sorry, the
yeah,
greatest high flyer of all time. But Del Rio and Mysterio were at a different level. They didn't have to,
yeah,
it wasn't going to be good business for Del Rio and Mysterio. So who else is he going to work with? And they tried everybody, but it just wasn't clicking. And then, once you have the pyro, the lights, the awesome entrance, boom, when the bell rings, then if I don't have
yeah.
anybody else, a good dance partner, then that's basically what happened with him. And
Yeah,
I feel
that's the
bad for
only.
the guy because he's a good dude.
Yeah, that's the thing we're gonna get to as well. Like WWE's style can be restrictive, especially for tag teams, which we'll definitely be getting to. Believe me, Orlando it was a pet peeve for us fans. I
Yeah,
can only
yeah,
imagine what's like for you, but we'll get to that. But yeah, they done the sensible thing. They paired you and Primo together, which obviously makes sense. And they put
yeah.
Rosa with you as well. How did it feel having Rosa as part of the package?
It was funny, man, because we never expected, like, from the moment I debuted, Primo wasn't even there when I debuted. He flew home that day.
Yeah,
Then the following week in Liverpool, they put us three together and they told us, yeah, we love the look. This is your music. This is where we're going to go. We debuted against the Usos. Good little match. They had plans. Well, they told us they had plans. Then the following week, they go, it's too violent. Let's just, you guys have a match against the Usos on main event. We're in
yeah,
Boston. And then Rosa wasn't doing anything. So Rosa goes to the office. Hey, I'm Latina. They're Latinos. Can I manage them? And sure. And then
yeah,
they put her with us. And it was like, but everything was for us. It was like thrown together last minute.
yeah,
It is what it is. We just try to make the best of it.
yeah,
And if we had more time to work with her before we got thrown out to the, on TV, I think it would have worked a little bit better. But in WWE, either you go with the waves or you get drowned
yeah.
in the water. So we just had everything, everything we had to work on the go.
Yeah, and not long after they put you together, though, you defeated Boom, which for fans, that's Evan Bourne and Kofi
Yeah,
Kingston, or I suppose people now know as Evan Bourne's Matt Sydal.
at Seidel, yeah.
Um, so I've read like conflicting reports. Like some people said the reason they dropped the belt was because Sydal was injured, but others
Yeah.
said it was because violated drug policy. Um, I think it's 50-50 like what it is, but either way, he's got the belts. So how did it feel being tag champs?
For me, it was. I mean, there's something that winning the tag titles is something that nobody can take away from me and
No.
Primo or Primo and Carlito, regardless of the circumstances under which we won them. And that's irrelevant. Winning
Yeah.
it in a live event, so big deal. Kofi and CM Punk won the belts in a live event as well, so
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. What matters is what they do with it. You know, at that time, they only had, I believe, 3 tag teams:
Yeah.
Air Boom, the Usos, who were fairly new, and me and Primo, who just got thrown up in the mix. We were just a lucky tag team that was just recently debuted. You know, the Usos at the time, they were new, but they were becoming the, you know, when the kids buys a toy, they play with it for 2 days, then they throw them in. I'm bored of it. So the Usos were at that stage. They got bored of the Usos for a moment. So we just happy to be the flavor of the month, and luckily we just got they put the belt on us. But regardless, that's something that it's in the history books. Nobody can take that away from us. We heard we were going to get the belts at the airport the day before. One of the producers, hey, you're getting the belts? I was, oh, great. What are the plans with the tag team division? Oh, we don't know. Oh, great.
It's terrible. And you held the belts for a bit, and you defended them at WrestleMania. But this was during a time where the tag belts was always seems to be defended on the pre-show and not on the main card of WrestleMania, which is stupid. The tag belt is the tag belt system. You know, it's one of the most important belts. It was a good match as well because it was the Usos and Tyson Kidd and Justin Gabriel, 2 great high flyers, and it was a fun match. But the question is, like, it's known that Vince McMahon hates tag teams. Now, some people said, like, back in the day, the reason he hates tag teams is because he hates paying 4 talents.
That's exactly what I was told.
Just 2. And this is the same thing.
When I met with Triple H in FCW 10, 11 years ago, and that's something I respect from Triple H because he told me flat out. He met with myself, I think Seth Rollins, John Moxley, Bo Dallas, Joe Hennig, some of the boys that were ready to be called up, even Tangaloa, Camacho. You know, hey, stay cool. There's plans for you guys. Just, you know, let me know what you guys think. We just want to make sure that you guys are okay. I know it's hard to be in developmental, stuck, you know, like in limbo. That was cool of him to fly down just to talk to us, you know. And then he flat out told me, he's like, the thing with tag teams is that it's an extra expense. Instead of 1 ticket, it's 2 tickets. On top of that, you're paying 4 guys in a match. Business-wise, it's just not cost-effective, you know. And I respect it, and I understand that because my uncle's promotion, like when you look at the cars, like, ooh, you know, a match can cost me, let's say, $5,000 just to say. A tag match will cost you 15 to 20. Because it's more competitive. So from that end, I understand it, and I respect the fact that he told me way before why to do. So I kind of knew what was the deal. So
it's a shame because like so I'm born in '89, so I started watching wrestling '93, probably '94. I was about 4 or 5 years old. But I had a lot of the tapes from like the early '90s or late '80s, and it's weird because when you watch them tapes, it's like so many tag teams like Heart Foundation, British Bulldogs, Demolition, House of Pain, such and such, and they was on the cards like every time. But even now, when they do have a tag team division, it seems to be like you still got the Usos, who's still going, and they've been brilliant for the past 10 years. Same as New Day. But every other tag team seems to be like thrown together last minute. I mean, as much as I love Cesaro and Nakamura, they put them together and they're doing okay, but I don't see them as a tag team. I see them as like 2 single stars. You know what I mean? Like tag team, like there's a reason certain tag teams work. You and Primo work. You're cousins and similar styles, similar look and everything, and that's how it is. But it's just
the chemistry. Well, that's I understand what you're saying. It sucks. It just sucks for the division, you know?
And if that's like I said earlier, if it frustrates us fans, I can only imagine what it's like for you, like in the locker room and just it's crazy. But one guy I do want to talk, I could go on a rampage about WWE. I try to be loyal to WWE still, I will still watch it, but I'm fairly neutral as a wrestling fan. Like if I see bad wrestling, I'll say it's bad. If it's good wrestling, I'll say it's good. So that's just the way I am. But one guy I did want to talk about, because he was around about the same time, John Cena. What was he like behind the scenes?
Oh, he was great. He was unbelievable. He was he's the most down to earth, humble guy in the locker room that I met. And on top of that, he's the hardest working person in the locker. His work ethic is second to none. And I remember when I was in FCW, he would come every Tuesday after doing Monday Night Raw. Wow. He would show up at the gym. As soon as he landed, he'll go home, he'll change, he'll show up to the gym, spend 3 to 4 hours with us, just working out and just talking about the business.
Yeah.
Just talking. And I remember, and this, I'll take this with me. His car broke down and he was at the shop or something. And he asked one of the guys to give him a ride from the gym to the shop. And that lucky guy was me. And we were just chit-chatting for 30 minutes. And he goes, what do you think that WWE needs to do in order to bridge the gap between FCW and the main roster? Like what? Yeah. And I told him, and there was what the boys we were talking about. How cool would it be instead of us being called up and thrown with the wolves and the lions, working in front of 10,000 people? Why just can't they just do like little trials for 2 months? Call a guy up for 2 months, put him on the road, and slowly build him up until he's ready to go on TV. And they would do it on occasions, but only for certain people. And you just have to do it with almost everybody, you know, because you can't expect a football player that looks like $1 million, who's never taken a bump. He goes to FCW for 3 months. Yes, he can call a match. But it's a different game when you call a match in FCW that's A, B, C, D, E, F, you know, then it's totally different than going on TV and they tell you got 10 minutes. And when you get to the ring, they tell you got 3 minutes. You know, it's a lot of kids are going to freak out. And to this day, a lot of the guys don't know how to work with WWE style because you got to listen to the times. It's not wrestling. We're putting on a TV show.
Yeah.
And wrestling is the main, you know, what they sell, but it's a TV show, so you got to hit your times, you know. And a bunch of the guys freak out and they can't handle the pressure, you know. Yeah. So I appreciated him listening to me, and 2 weeks later, they implanted that system, and they started calling talent on the road. And then about 6 months later, I get called up, and then I think immediately after me was Tangaloa, Camacho, then Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, and they started coming on the road for about 4 or 5 months on the live events, and then they debuted as a Shield about 6 months after. But that's how they slowly. So that was all him. John he went to bat for us with the office. So that's something that I'll always thank him for. And he has all the respect in the world from me. Regardless of what the fans say, he is box office hit. Like, people love to cheer him and people love to hate him. It's weird. Yeah. Like, people either love somebody or hate somebody. Him, he's both. Yeah. He's a genius because he was able to bank on.
He worked it.
You know, I love Cena, and then he came up with the idea. Let's make a Cena suck shirt. Well, it's still his. You know, it's still his money. So
he's a genius. Yeah, I mean, I've always liked Cena, and sometimes like you feel like, oh, he's won again, but I think I kind of felt like I was in on the joke. I'm like, he's just trolling the fans, but the thing was like the last during I suppose like the tens was his heyday, and you would see like the amount of, because this is the one thing I do hate seeing like online wrestling fans. The amount of hate they have towards people, and they take it really serious. Not in like a wrestling sense, but an actual personal thing. They take it really serious. Yeah. And they're like, oh, I hate Cena, and things like that. But I think the thing is now that Cena, he's kind of retired now. Like, you know, he's doing, you know, things in Hollywood now. I think people now starting to appreciate how great he actually was, like, in WWE.
You miss him.
Oh, we all miss him. So it's kind of like you don't know what you've got to, it's gone sort of thing. Yeah. So same with Edge. When Edge came back, it was like you don't realize how much you actually loved Edge. So, but yeah, Cena was great. But yeah, you eventually dropped the belts, and then Next gimmick, Los Matadores. There were some fun parts. Like some people like those parts we found entertaining, especially with El Torito. But what was it like when they came up to you and said, "Right, we're gonna make you bullfighters"?
Well, that original idea was the concept was our idea. I mean, not specifically for the Matadors and Torito.
Right,
We had a concept, a gimmick. At the time, we weren't doing anything, and I wanted to get rid of my braids.
right,
So, and then we did some series of matches with Rey Mysterio and Sin Cara, but they weren't doing anything.
no,
So we talked to them, and then, hey, let's just do like a old school, like a lucha libre type of match where it's mask versus mask, and then leads a hair versus mask, and so just to do like a 3-month program, keep us busy,
yeah,
And Ray and Sin Cara, they loved it, it'll give them something to do. We love working with each other, wrestling with each other. So we go to Vince and we present him this idea. We did some promos. And the idea was that we were this superior Latin race. We were from Spain, we colonized all the Latin countries, but it wasn't never a Matador gimmick. We were going to be kind of like the Conquistadors. That was our pitch,
yeah,
Well, people knew it was going to be Primo and Epico from the get-go,
yeah,
So Vince loved it, and then we worked on it for about 6 to 8 months. And then he goes, I think, you should be bullfighters. I'm like, okay. And the gimmick was we were going to be heels.
right,
Originally, that was our pitch. So we were about to debut, and then they go, yeah, you guys are going to be baby faces. So me and Primo, so who are you going to work with? I mean, like, that's. So that was the first curveball. And then Triple H comes and says, yeah, you guys are going to be baby faces. It's going to be cool. And you're going to have a mascot. You're going to have a little bull. I'm like, oh, crap. Oh, sweet Jesus. So there goes that. I mean, starting off a new gimmick with a left foot. But then when he told us it was Masquerita Dorada, I was like, oh, wait a minute.
yeah.
He's the greatest
He's great
wrestler of all time. I was like, okay, there's something there. So that's when we changed our mentality. It was like, okay, this actually might be better in the long run if they go with it. Because we got the best mini high flyer of all time. So this is going to be a gimmick for kids. It's going to be, it's going to be comedy. It's going to be ha ha. So we might be able to do something. And that's when they flew us on the private jet to meet with Vince in Connecticut. And then we realized, okay, if they're flying us on the jet, they're spending serious money just to have, they could have flown this commercial and saved $10,000, $15,000 on that, but they wanted us to do it quick. So they flew us on a private jet and we met with Vince. It's like, yeah, this is the plan. We met with the writers. They showed us this 6 to 8 month grid of programs that they had with us.
Yeah.
Like, oh God, I love it. This is going to be great. The first program is going to be with Cesaro and Swagger. I'm like, okay, great workers. And they had Dutchman Towns. Like, gee, that's going to be great. If they let Torito do his stuff, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
We do the pay-per-view. Then the following day, we were supposed to work with them for about a month. And then they switched it the next night. We're working 3MB. Okay. They're not doing anything with them, but whatever.
Yeah.
And it just, the following week, they didn't have anything for us on TV. I was like, okay, here we go again. Back to the back burner. I get it. But then we started getting, in the live events, we started getting a following, because in the live events, that's when Torito can do his stuff. But every time we went to TV, they put the handcuffs on him. And I understand they have rules, but it's a mascot,
Yeah.
But they didn't want any part of it. So Torito was frustrated that he couldn't do anything. They just let him do a couple things here and there, but he was miserable because they didn't let him do anything. But when they threw him a bone with the WLC match,
that's great.
He was so proud, and he was and he put a lot of thought and effort. Him and Hornswoggle, they put their hearts out into that match, and everybody did. We took some crazy bumps. That was shown on TV. The cameras completely missed it, but we were pretty banged up, all of us, after that match. But we were proud of that. That was the highest moment of the Matadors.
Yeah, I think they done a special on the network. I think like 3MB and Hornswoggle talked specifically about that match, and McIntyre was like, people thought this match was going to be a joke, but this match was so hard. I think he said something like, "This was one of the hardest hitting matches I've ever had in my career."
It was brutal because you had about 7 guys that were frustrated. Some of us miserable. That it's just you envision yourself, and it's not that it's about getting a push or not getting a push. It's just about just getting a decent opportunity to showcase our skills, what we got, and we were all like, regardless of the match, what it was, we had a chip on our shoulder. We needed to prove something, even if we were managing Torito and Hornswoggle. So we all went out that day. We all put everything we got into that match, and the bumps we took were crazy, But it is what it is. But that match was fun, and it sticks as one of my favorite matches in my 10-year career in WWE.
Yeah, and Torito, for anyone that doesn't know where else he's wrestled, he's done a lot of stuff in Lucha Underground when that was about, and some of the things he was doing, it was crazy. Yeah, he was so good.
The WWE fans only saw maybe 10% of what he can really do. Only 10% of what he can do. And I know because we worked with him. We worked out with him a lot, and it was like, oh my God.
Yeah. He was so good.
Yep. Unbelievable.
But so after this, I think I've got my timeline right. This was about the time where was WWE talking to Carlito about bringing them back. I think I got it right, or am I a bit off?
No, yes. After the WLC, we went back to, as always, 99% of the tag teams, we were back to Limbo. And we had our anniversary show in Puerto Rico.
That's right.
And we had Torito there. It's funny. We had a match, and they were going to put it on pay-per-view. And WWE was kind enough to let us work in Puerto Rico, but we didn't want to push the envelope too much. So we told my uncle, hey, can you leave us off the pay-per-view? Can you put us in the, kiddie gimmick, for kids? Put us like before the pay-per-view, So I was all great, yeah. Something happened with the production crew that they had to go live at a certain time, so we had to go main event dark.
Right.
So I was like, oh God. So we have to go there. Awesome pay-per-view. I mean, awesome card in Puerto Rico, awesome house. And you're gonna put the kiddie gimmick at the end when all the kids are tired, they're sleepy, they've seen everything on the card. I was like, oh God, it's suicide. So sure enough, the finish was a DQ. They leave us on the floor. They beat up Torito, so everybody was like, the finish fell flat. I was like, and me and Primo were talking as we were on the ground. Like, we can't send him home like this. We can't. We gotta do something to pop him. We gotta send him home happy. And okay, let's get the mic. So we go cut a promo, and people started kind of they started leaving, but they turned around when we got on the mic and said, okay, so there's Eddie and Orlando Colon, the siblings of the greatest, arguably the greatest wrestler of all time. Okay, they have something important to say. And they went last, so something's got to happen, because they can't send me home with that crappy, finish.
Yeah.
So we had nothing. This is just ad-lib. And I look at Primo, and I go, should we do it? And he knew exactly what I was saying, It's like, he goes, fuck it, let's do it. And it was, we were trying to program a match with Hurricane Castillo and Miguel Perez, Los Boricuas.
Yeah.
So they stayed. Luckily, they stayed on the ramp, and we cut the promo, and then it was yada yada yada. Because at the next pay-per-view, whatever, next event, you're not going to be facing Fernando and Diego Los Matadores. You're going to be facing Eddie, and we took the mask off, and that was completely unscripted. And Torito was on the floor. He goes, "What the hell are you guys doing? You're going to wrestle my career and my money." And then the crowd was popping there. Everybody went happy. So, that's what we wanted to see. So we had to go to Raw to Houston the next day, and we're on the plane, tired, hurt, and so it's like, how much you want to bet? As soon as we get in there, we're gonna get called into the office, and they're gonna chew us a new one. And I was like, at that time, we didn't care, and we didn't care if we got fired or not. It's like, whatever. So, and we were talking, wow, I wonder who's the stooge? Who's going to stooge it off?
Yeah.
What we did. So we go to the locker room and we're like, all right, let's just sit down and wait. And we're waiting. And then one of the camera guys, Marty, good guy, he goes, hey, guys. And I look at Primo and goes, here we go. I don't know what you guys did in Puerto Rico, but Vince is very high on you guys. What? Really? And I was like, oh, okay. This has got to be a joke or a rib. This is something, you know. And then one of the producers, I think Michael Hayes, comes and says, hey, there was a time to talk to Vince about your guys' career. Time is now.
Wow.
90. Yeah, he goes, the meeting was mostly talk, you know, what you guys did. And he goes, yeah, is he going to fine us or bury us or fire us? He goes, no. He respects the shit out of you guys because you showed balls.
Wow.
And, you know, and Vince likes that kind of, he doesn't like, you know, he likes people that have, you know,
I've heard that, yeah.
character, you know? It's like,
yeah.
So we just go and say, what do we want to, you know, we didn't even know what to tell Vince, you know. It's like, what are we going to tell him? Hey, give us a push as the Matadors, you know. And then, well, let's talk to him about doing something with you, me, and Carlito. And then I said to Carlito real quick, hey, man, if they call you back, would you be interested? It's like, he goes, sure, why not? Because he's been through hell and back, you know. So he mentally he was checked out, you know. He didn't want to go through that, through everything he went through during his tenure. So I was like, yeah, sure, for you guys, I'll do it. I'm like, all right, well, we're gonna go to this meeting and see where it goes. We go to Vince. Michael Hayes was there, and we pitch him the idea. And he wants to work. It's like, yeah. And Michael Hayes goes, he's behind us, and Michael's like, Hayes, he goes, he does like this, and Vince goes, okay, well, let's get working. Just like that. I'm like, okay. So we started the process of pitching ideas of another gimmick, another character, another storyline. How do we go about it? Yada, yada, yada. And then they started talking to Carlito, blah, 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 blah. And I don't know, when it came time to negotiate with him, somebody must have interfered in the negotiations. And when we get to Montreal a few months later, they go, yeah, the deal with Carlito didn't go through. He's asking for too much money. Too much money? Okay. And then we go talk to Vince. It's like, yeah, we lost him. He too much money. Like, well, I know exactly what he's asking for, and it's not a lot of money.
No.
So I wonder who's getting in between, you know, who's getting in your ear, because, you know, what he was going to ask for is not, you know, it's not a lot, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and Carlito told me, yeah, what they offered me was basically like a developmental deal. It's like I'm making way more on the independents than what they're offering me. It's like I don't need it. Like, good for you, you know. I wouldn't take it, you know.
Yeah.
So that was that with Carlito, and then we pitched another idea, and when I guess I don't know if we got heat or not, but one of the many times we got heat, they came up with this gimmick. We were supposed to be the Puerto Rican Playboys.
Oh god.
And we're in the office, and Vince goes, "Yeah, you guys are good looking. You're Puerto Rican. I want you guys to dress like Hugh Hefner. It's like it was like a mix with Hugh Hefner and Goldust. We're gonna wear black and gold." Oh, it was just, me and Primo looked. We almost threw up right there. It's like, oh. And here's your gimmick. Here's gear. They had gear and everything, and we had the black and gold robe like Hugh Hefner.
Yeah.
We were gonna be like Goldust. You know, it's like this like exact same color scheme as Gold. Oh God, please. We were about to debut, and then 2 hours before we were supposed to debut with that gimmick, Vince goes, it might be too much for TV, you know, Playboys. What is that? And that was his idea. So then we get called into the office. He goes, yeah, I want you guys to sell me Puerto Rico. Just, sell it to me. Sell me a timeshare. And I'm like, we'll do whatever you want other than Puerto Rican Playboys to begin with. Because, like, yeah. And that's when the Shining Stars gimmick started. I said, you know what? Just give me whatever. Give me. As long as it's not that crap, I'll do it. I'll do anything.
It must be true then, because people say he does come across that way, that Vince can just change his mind like that, basically. Even though it's his idea, last minute he'd be like, nah, let's scrap it, let's just change it.
Yeah.
Is he really like that?
Yeah, but you can't blame the guy, man. Like, it's this business is so fast paced. I mean, he's been doing it for how long? 40 years. His work ethic is something. He gets no sleep. I mean, he gets an hour, 2 hours of sleep a night, and then he gets a plane, go to the gym, and does it all over. Like, he's a machine, literally. He is a working machine. So you think he has time for, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, he wants to work with Undertakers, John Cena, Triple H's, people that draw the big money. And I get it, I understand it, you know. So if he's not gonna remember what Primo and Epico said one week, you know, what idea you had for them, you know. I get it, you know. It's just you got to focus where your money is, you know.
I suppose, and one of the guys, I think he must have left around about this time, CM Punk. So I mean, controversial, I should say. I mean, big following, like we all loved him when he was during his time, but when he decided to leave, what was the reaction from the locker room, like hearing that Punk has walked out?
Well, we kind of knew that he was gonna do it because Punk is ballsy, man. He don't care. He does whatever, and it's good because he'll tell it straight to your face, you know, what he thinks, which is something I respect from him, you know. So, thing with the locker room is like there's so many guys that, you know, at the time there was no other companies to work for.
No,
you know, it's WWE. Where else are you gonna go? TNA. You know, the pay scale, the pay difference is just way too big. You know, so what are you gonna do? You're gonna you have a family, you have a wife, you have kids. You're getting paid $500,000 to do, you know, to basically do nothing, eat catering in WWE, to go to the independents and, you know, and hustle and struggle and fight with promoters for them to pay you, you know, or they owe you money. So it's just, for me, it was, you know, so when Punk, you know, TM Punk made, you know, he probably still has a few million in the bank still, you know. So when you're at that level, you can do whatever you want. So he just had it, you know. He don't need to put up with, you know, with anybody. So he just, a bunch of the boys, oh man, oh, good for you. He was like, do it. You know.
And you became the shining stars, and like you said, bit of a push to begin with. You was put in the Survivor Series team, things like that. But like I said, see Vince's interest in tag teams, like for a month or a couple of months, he'll push you, and then he'll just lower it back down, just like hold it back again. So it must be just frustrating because, you know, obviously this has happened a few times now, and in the end, even though it's a passion, obviously, and still is to this day, I suppose like at a certain point when you're at WWE, it just becomes a job and just like I'll just get paid.
We were before, like, I think during the Shining Stars, after WrestleMania in Orlando, we already had one foot out of the company. Our contract was up for that summer, and we and Primo made up our minds that we were just gonna go. So we're ready to do something new and you know, focus on Puerto Rico. And so we've been ready to go for 3 years, but then they call us and they say, hey, we'll give you double. They give us almost 3 times for me, it was like almost triple my downside.
Wow.
So I'm like, wait a minute. So you paying me this much to keep eating catering? You know, I don't know about you people, but I'm gonna say, I can wait another 3 years, and that's basically what we did. You know, we tried. You know, you can only try so much. So if they want to pay me to do that, to keep doing what we're doing, hey, it's your money. You know, if you're willing, you know, to pay us that. So we signed another deal. When Primo went down with a knee injury, he had surgery, and then I had another shoulder surgery. So, and then by the time we were back, it's 2020, the pandemic hits, but our contract was going to be up anyway in June.
Right.
So we only missed our target by a month or two. So
so you was prepared for leaving before, obviously, COVID happened and that changed plans for everyone. But you was kind of had your exit strategy ready for WWE. But last name from WWE I want to mention. I don't know if you interacted with him that much. Brock Lesnar. Much interaction with him, and if so, what's he like? I've heard he's quite quiet.
Yeah, he's quiet. He's pretty reserved, kept to himself. But cool guy. We did some stuff with him in a live event, and easy to work with. Nothing bad to say about the guy. He's drawn the money for for the company. So we're all thankful for him because he
Yeah.
He paid our bills, in a way,
Good. So eventually you left, and hopefully once COVID finishes, when it eventually does pass over, quite a few companies out there, NWA, Impact, and obviously
Yep.
AEW, and
Yep.
I'll be honest, Orlando. Like I was weighing up in my head, like where would I love to see the Cullen dynasty turn up, and like you and Primo, and I'm thinking I would love to see you in. Obviously, AEW's I suppose is the place to go, but I'm thinking I would love to see you in like Impact, because Impact's got a pretty good tag division, and with the North Motor City Machine Guns, I can imagine the matches you would put on with the Machine Guns. I reckon it would be top stuff. Have you? Is there? I don't know if you're allowed to say, but have you been in contact with any of these other companies, or are you just focusing on WWC?
No, right now we're trying to reopen WWC. I'm focused on my son. I'm a stay-home parent. Taking him to school every day, enjoying that, enjoying the time that I miss with my wife and my son. So I'm focused on that. Hopefully, when COVID everything goes back to normal, then I can focus back on getting back on track with the wrestling. I mean, anybody wants to talk to me and call me, yeah, but I'm not. There's nothing that I can do. I'm still.
Yeah.
It's crazy time still, so I might take a booking here and there, but right now I don't think it's the right time. But when everything gets back to normal, man, we'd love to tear the house down with everybody, man. We want to work with the best tag team. I think we have a lot to offer. I mean, 10 years experience in WWE, we can pass that knowledge down to younger generations. Love to go to Japan. We love to go to Mexico. We still want to travel. We still want to do our thing, and hopefully we meet down the road with Carlito, and do a thing with us three. And I think that's where the money's at. So,
what's it like seeing Carlito on the silver screen in glow?
Oh, it's great, man. It's unbelievable to see him and making the transition to the TV, to Netflix, and it's him. It's who he is, So yeah, I can't wait to see what he's got next.
Cool. So the last segment of the show, you're actually only the second person to do this, because originally, so the name of my podcast obviously is that 90s Wrestling Podcast. The reason I named it that is because the original concept was me reviewing pay-per-views in the 90s. All of a sudden, like out of nowhere, I started getting guests, and so the show is completely transformed into like a guest show now, like interviews, and I do countdowns and things like that. So I've done a new segment. So it's basically your favorite 90s. So basically it's like your favorite like TV show, films, and things like that. So basically I'll go through the question and you answer them, and we'll see what we can do. So first question is your favorite 90s movie.
The 90s. I don't know if it was the 90s. I remember this. What movie? See, I'm all messed up with the years. Jesus, can't think of one. Forrest Gump. I have to say, it have to be one of my. Yeah, Forrest Gump. Yep.
Oh, that's a great movie. Favorite 90s TV show.
Saved by the Bell.
Saved by the Bell.
Yeah.
Screech. He's had a very interesting life after Saved by the Bell.
Yeah, right. We've seen Mr. Belding. Sometimes he's a big wrestling fan. So
he is. Yeah.
Every once in a while, yeah.
Cool. I don't know if you're a video game player, but your favorite 90s video game?
Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. That's quite a popular answer, to be honest. I get that quite a lot. So I was interviewing from Impact Wrestling, Willie Mack, the other day, and he said Mortal Kombat. So it's quite a popular answer, the fighting games. So outside you, besides yourself, your favorite tag team, 90s tag team?
90s tag team? I would say the Hart Foundation, but they were back more in the 80s, right?
Yeah, they're still 90s. I'll count it.
Early
But
90s,
yeah, that was great stuff. I think probably the best, I suppose, Amble was a big man. So best big man, little man, even though Bret had some size to him as well.
Big,
But Yeah, it's weird because you look back in them day, he was kind of labeled small, even though he was like 240 pounds legit, give or
Yep.
take. So
So they'll
it's
be monsters
amazing.
nowadays.
Oh yeah, when I've watched like some shows and I see like even like for example Zack Ryder. So in WWE he was like like a middle shaped guy I suppose, but in AEW he looks like a monster
He's a monster.
compared to the
Yeah,
rest.
he's a
So
heavyweight. Yeah.
so it tells you how much wrestling's changing. So aside from your uncle, your favorite '90s wrestler?
Bret Hart from the '80s.
Yeah,
Yeah, Bret Hart was. Yeah, he was it's my inspiration, uh, other than my uncle. So yeah.
yeah. I suppose there was a few times, and I'm sure I remember a segment like in Raw. I think you interacted with Brett. I don't know if it was you or Primo, and he said, I think it was you. He said, "Say hello to your uncle."
Say hello to you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Definitely.
sure it
Yeah.
was. Yeah,
And every time we talked to him, he was always very fond of his memories in Puerto Rico. So and he told us that if he didn't go to Puerto Rico, he might have called it quits in his career, wrestling career. So
yeah,
going to Puerto Rico for him was a big motivator and inspiration. I'm like, well,
yeah,
that's pretty cool. Yeah.
yeah. He's always been my favorite, and it's weird because you can watch wrestling these days and you can see the people that grew up idolizing Shawn Michaels. You can see the people who grew up
Doing this.
idolizing Brett. I've always
Yep.
been a Brett fan, so
Yeah, same here.
yeah, you can see it. And last question: your favorite '90s match?
Oh, there's a lot. Let's see. Oh, favorite match: Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio.
Yeah,
Halloween Havoc. Yeah, that was
yes,
incredible. That was
yeah.
incredible. Yeah, yeah,
That's one of the best things about the network now. Like people can just even like a lot of younger fans who missed all this, they can just go back and
yeah,
watch this stuff. And
yeah,
I always say like for a wrestling fan, the network is the best
yeah.
thing ever made. So
Yep, yep.
it's great. So cool. So before we sign off, where can everyone find you on their social media?
I got. I'm not a big social media guy, but every once in a while I pop in and out. Twitter. I still got my old handle at WWE Epico, and Instagram at the Orlando Cologne, and my email ocbookings@yahoo.com.
Cool.
That's about it. I'm not a big in Facebook or none of that. Or
Cool.
Twitch or Snapchat or TikTok. I'm not.
I haven't got a clue. Everyone keeps saying like Twitch is the place to be. I'm like, I don't even know where to start with
I don't
Twitch. I'll
even know
just
what that is yet. So
I don't know if it's just like for people who wants to watch people play video games. I'm thinking
okay,
I'd rather play the games myself, and that's when I
exactly.
want to play the games. But
Yeah,
I pretty much just stick to like Instagram and Twitter myself, to be honest. So
yeah.
that's what
Or
it
the
is.
YouTube.
But oh yeah, definitely. Well, but yeah, thanks for coming on, Orlando. It's been a great pleasure speaking to you and like the stories from you and that. It's just been it's been a really good chat. So I appreciate you coming onto the show.
No, thank you for having me. I appreciate you guys for what you're doing.
Cool. Thanks very much. And yeah, hopefully we can do this again sometime.
We'll do, man. You can count on
All
me.
right.